Good morning, everyone. This is Sanjay Gupta, CMDN of 1986-88 batch, and also being part of Dr. K. Modi Foundation family. My heartiest welcome to everyone, especially CMDNs and our esteemed panelists for today's discussion. We all know COVID-19 global pandemic has spread over regions, countries. Many businesses and common people at large are affected. The current situation has increased moments of anxiety and stress for everyone. Many CMDNs are at leadership positions and many budding leaders among recent CMDNs being part of today's discussion. These are the times when everyone has to be mindful and maintain a positive environment for themselves and their team members. Today, we are here to discuss and deliberate among ourselves on most relevant thematic discussion in today's time. We are fortunate to have people from different walks of life among the panelists. We are fortunate to have thought leader for today's webinar, Professor Dr. Rakesh Kumar Khandal, President R&D India Glycols Ltd and former Vice Chancellors UP Technical University, Lucknow, an eminent
Namaskar.
scientist and academician at par, having conferred with many awards and given many patents for his research work. We are fortunate to have Professor Dr. VP Singh amongst us,
Welcome, Professor Singh.
advisor and distinguished professor CMD and Dr. K. Modi University, advisor with Patanjali and expert on HR, human resources, being on the board of several multinational companies, corporates, and leading business school of India.
Thank you.
We are thankful to Professor Singh for igniting the idea of today's webinar and its theme, learning and growing during and beyond lockdown. And also, I'm especially thankful to Professor Dr. Singh consenting to be moderator for this webinar. We are fortunate to have my dear friend, Mr. Rajesh Dahiya, Vice President Marketing, Sales and Service, India, SAARC and Oceania, Appolo Tyres Ltd, a CMDN of 1987-89 batch. We are fortunate to have with us Mr. Rahul Hora, President and CEO, EXA Philippines and Charter Ping and CMDN of 1994-96 batch. We are fortunate to have with us Mr. Rakesh Kumar Meet, a practitioner turned educator. He worked for 22 years with many multinational companies, including Hindustan Lever, Novartis, Dabur, Airtel, and his forte has been marketing and sales.
Very good.
From last 3 years, he indulged himself into academics and being visiting faculty with Indian Institute of Rural Management, Gujarat, IIFT, IMT, and CMD. He is a CMDN of 1993-95 batch.
Oh, wonderful.
We are also fortunate to have with us Mr. Naveen Gupta, founder and CEO of Fuel for Media, a known entrepreneur and expert into digital media and CMDN of 1998-2000 batch. Not taking much of time, may I request Professor Dr. Singh to take charge of the proceeding for fruitful takeaways for everyone today. Over to Professor Dr. Singh.
Thank you, Sanjay. Thank you very much for our introduction. And it's a privilege and honor to lead and anchor this webinar. And I can see that already about 130 participants have joined us from different parts of the world. I'm very happy and privileged that we are going to have a very interesting dialogue today. And as Sanjay, you have already said that the world has changed during last few days, and the world has changed for many reasons, good or bad, that's something we will deliberate. What has happened during last 40 days is that the world has undergone a crash course in e-commerce, digital payment, remote working. Uh, we have also experienced significant changes in our lifestyle. Working from home has become a acceptable norm and has impacted our society big time. Before I ask Dr. Khandal to set the agenda in motion by his opening remarks, let me share at this stage that there was a survey conducted by a renowned management consulting group, Wills Towers Watson. The survey has highlighted that 57% of respondents believe that this lockdown will have moderate to large negative impact. Percent of the respondents believe that this impact will continue for about 12 months. I can see that a lot of people are have not unmuted themselves, muted themselves. Hello, am I audible?
Good morning. Yes.
Okay. So before we get going and before I invite Dr. Khandal to share his initial thoughts about this theme of learning and growing during this lockdown and beyond lockdown, it's a privilege again, as I said, to connect with all of you. Once Dr. Khandal has shared his thoughts and ideas, I will come back and then we will start the panel discussion. Happy to see that about 150 odd people have joined us. May I at this stage invite Dr. Khandal to share his thoughts and ideas on this webinar theme. Over to you, Dr. Khandal. Dr. Khandal, if you can come in.
Yes, am I not audible?
Yes, you are. You are. Please carry on.
Thank you, Professor Singh. You are gem of a soul, and we are really proud and, in fact, fortunate to have you associated with CMD, also associated with Dr. K. Modi Foundation. Thank you very much for being the moderator for this very high impact program. First of all, before I actually say anything, I must congratulate and I must pay my regards to Professor Dr. D.K. Modi, who happens to be the Chancellor of Dr. K. Modi University and Chairperson of Dr. K. Modi Foundation, for his patronage and mentorship for organizing this program. Of course, the idea was Professor Sanjay Gupta, but the patronage of Professor Modi. Dr. K. Modi Foundation is perhaps one of the oldest foundations of this country. Has been dedicated to provide education to all, especially to those who are coming from rural, and catering to the best of the requirements of the industry, providing human resource which are industry ready. The third point which really makes me feel pride about is the alumni of CMD. CMD alumni, I really salute you, all those who are there on the panel, and also to those who are outside the panel. let me tell you, you are the flag bearer of CMD and you are our stars. And for me, it is a very, very fortunate moment that I am face to face with you. Let me tell you, in my heart, the maximum respect goes to you. Almost for the last over 80 years, this foundation has been providing resources to society, industry, and everybody who are actually looking for good. So this is the preamble of my discussion. But coming to my point of view on the topic that we have chosen today for the webinar, there are two aspects. One aspect is that a few important questions which Professor Singh has already framed and pre-communicated before the webinar that you all have, the panelists have, and will be speaking on. But I have 2-3 more points to add to that. And I would be eagerly and very keenly looking forward to your guidance, to your advice on those points. Point A, that in times to come, education would not be done the same way as it has been done so far. It would not be seen in the same way as we have been seeing it so far. Point number one. Point number B is educational institutions, their role, their position, their involvement, their responsibilities, and the role that they have to play in shaping the young minds of the country would be very, very important. Now, when I say this, this means that concept of having top of the line institutes, but lower category institutes will vanish. Now the education would be done in a manner where the learned people will be connected with those who are keen learners. So the concept of universities, concept of institutes will see a transformation. Point number 3, which is important in my opinion, is how do we create such platforms, such portals, such network groups, which actually keep generating new knowledge and creating value and then value adding. Look at how COVID-19 has arisen from those challenges has come out so many opportunities. The other day, we were engaged into certain things which were mundane sort of things in development, in research and development. Suddenly the challenge came, and would you believe it, that we have been able to develop in just last 40 days or 60 days, more than 5 new products of different dimensions and degrees. So this really challenge has given us opportunity. The second point, Government of India has come out with Arogya Setu. Now this point is very, very important because this has provided us with a point of, I just downloaded the Arogya Setu and try to understand the relevance, role and importance of it. I want to just share with you how beautiful this Arogya Setu is. Not from the point of view of COVID-19. But from the point of view of education. 500 meters, who are all affected, who are all positive, etc., etc. But from the context of education, suppose you have a program like Arogya Setu, where you would know which subject you have experts located nearby. You don't have to go to the university. You don't have to go to the institutes. You can get connected to those people who are within 10 kilometers, 20 kilometers, the whole country. The learners and learned people get connected through this kind of Setu. So I think these are the kind of principles will be of for future. making our education prosper. The very important point on which we should elaborate, and that is my desire and wish, and my request also, you can take all the CMDNs, that I would like to see you work as mentors and drivers of CMD and of Dr. K. Modi Foundation. I would like to see you become the eminent personalities to shape the young minds who are entering into Dr. K. Modi Foundation and different university and institutes. So how do we do this? Can we have programs which are industry related and be run by you only? You are the masters, you have seen the life, you have experienced challenges, you have come out, done so many innovations. Can we have programs which are specific to what industry is looking for? And those programs are run by you. You are our visiting professors. So I want to see that. And in the end, before I actually stop talking, the first and foremost thing in education is the sustainability of the institutes. Institutes have to be sustainable. There is no point in having IITs and NITs and big institutes, we say center of excellence for the country, but they are source generating entities helping the economy. Dr. K. Modi Foundation would like to see how you all help us not only attain self-sustainability, but grow beyond that, so that the foundation, the founder of this foundation to help service the nation would be fulfilled in much better way. So self-sustainability, the dimensions and degree of the way the education would be done and universities, attendance has become meaningless. Till the other day, we were talking about 75% of attendance, then only you will get the admit card. For the 90 days, nobody is going to the classes. So attendance has no meaning. Similarly, many other things have lost relevance. For example, malls. We have built so many malls in the country. What are their relevance? We are getting all important items delivered at our doors. I think I would not like to take much more to make our institution self-sustainable. How can you play the role of eminent personalities to see this foundation grows and the other foundations grow? And the dimensions and degrees of education are given particular proper direction for the betterment of the country. With these words, I must thank once again Professor Singh, Mr. Sanjay Gupta, Mr. Rajiv Saxena, Manish ji, for arranging and organizing this in this nice manner. And of course, Professor Dr. Modi for his patronage, so that we are all present on the same platform. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Khandal, for your opening remarks. We have taken note of some of the points which you have mentioned, including how to make education more relevant to lockdown and post-lockdown period, and of course the viability and sustainability of educational institutions, and lastly but not the least, how CMD alumni or alumni of KN Modi University and other institutions, how they can participate in building the human capital of this nation. So these 3 points we have captured, and of course we will have an offline discussion, deliberation amongst ourselves and come out with some kind of an action plan. And of course we plan that this kind of initiative which we have started today should be continued. Let's now get going into today's deliberation, and for benefit of all the participants, those who are watching this webinar structured this webinar. This webinar is basically in two parts. In first part, there are 4 questions or 4 themes which we will discuss. We will discuss it seamlessly, and those 4 themes questions, after we have discussed, we will have about 10 to 15 minutes where we would have a question answer session. My experts, my colleagues will come in and curate your questions, and we will respond to your queries and suggestions. So let me get going by inviting 4 of my special expert panelists. And the first question is that, as I was saying initially, and also Dr. Khandal was saying, that world has changed. World has changed big time. World has changed in the sense that what we see is that e-commerce, digital payment, remote working has become new normal. We also saw during last 40 days some unfortunate happenings also. We saw millions of people migrating from cities to villages. We also see that the industry experienced a lot of pain. Only today, we are reading crore jobs are getting lost. Probably new jobs will be created. Hopefully new jobs will be created. And old jobs will just vanish. They will become redundant. Let's get going by asking a question that what we have learned during last 40 days. I would like to start with Rajesh Dahiya, who is a very senior professional in Appolo Tyres, who is associated with tire business, which is basically automobile business. And automobile business has undergone tremendous pain. Even before COVID, it was already experiencing pain. So Rajesh, if you can share what has been one learning during last 40 days in Appolo Tyres, number one, and what kind of trend you foresee for industry? Rajesh.
Thank you, Dr. Singh. I hope I'm audible. I'm audible.
Yes,
sir?
you are.
Yeah. So once again, thank you for arranging this webinar and allowing us to be part of this. So coming to the point, the question that you asked, very clearly, as you said, that these kind of times were not seen before. Nobody has seen this kind of a situation almost in the entire lifetime. While we did have disruptions, we had businesses losing gravitas, we had some other businesses coming, but this kind of a lockdown practically at home and a very different situation that we experience today is something which has not been seen. So if from there, if I can talk more about my own industry, there are, I'll say, the 2 learnings or the 2 key learnings which are integrated. So first I would like to say is that the key learning for us has been that always prepare for the rainy day. Always prepare for the rainy day. India in last 34 years have seen growth ever since the economic growth has started happening. We have got one way for the corporate India, which was to grow, add more factories, have more businesses. But what is happening is that now suddenly all those investments and all the plans that we put in today, they are completely all, they're staring at you. So one clear learning that we have is that even if things are going good, always have a plan B, always prepare for a rainy day. That's first. And linked to that also, the other point that I want to mention is that never keep all your eggs in the same basket. And I'd like to give some example the way at least our company, Appolo Tyres, has kind of addressed that. So we were at one point in time, we were the company which was largely only an India-centric company. Almost 80-85% was only India, and that also replacement. Last 5 to 7 years, we have actually built consciously to kind of, de-risk our business. We today have a significant share into the OEMs, which are all these Tata, Leyland. We also created a lot of overseas markets. So today we've gone out to the markets like Dubai and outside even Europe. So the idea was also to de-risk. This has also helped us this time where we've seen that while if one channel is not doing well, we had slightly less impact in the other one. So from my side, I think these are the 2 points which I like to leave on the table. One, clearly when things are going good, still prepare for rainy day. Also look at, de-risking your business. Do not put all your eggs in one basket. And just the last point which you asked about, what are the trends? I think I will take a cue from what you have said earlier and also what Dr. Khandal said, digitalization. So that is the trend which is going to stay. Even a basic industry like tires, where people want to take their cars out, they take their tractors out, they take the vehicles out, still want to fit tire. There is a lot of digitization which is happening, and lots of that work is being done by us. So I think digitization is something which is a trend will stay. That will be a take from my
Thanks, Rajesh. I think you made some wonderful point, and getting ready for rainy days, which is basically in leadership parlance, what industry is saying that you should have a business continuity plan. So although we are claiming or we are saying that a business should have a business continuity plan, unfortunately, not many organizations have robust business continuity plan. So it's not late even now that organizations. Let me move to Rahul, who is living in Manila. Yes, Rajesh.
Singh जी, मैं एक प्रश्न पूछता हूँ आप दहिया जी से.
सर क्वेश्चन आंसर हम लोग लास्ट में करेंगे, लेकिन हाँ एक क्विकली पूछ सकते.
Not question answer.
जी.
Capability. Like for example, Appolo Tyres. What is the component of imports in making those tires, and how we are preparing to that? Because the country which is self-reliant is more developed than the one which depends on imports. But these are the points which I thought you would be able to say something.
So I'll respond to that, sir, and very quickly. I know that this the question that you've asked, I can honestly tell you, answering this fully may take almost half an hour, but I'll try and do it in 1 or 2 minutes only for the benefit of the panelists. So I'll just tell you, you absolutely touched upon the right point. Even the Honorable Prime Minister has talked about that if there is one key learning that we picked up out of this, which is getting self-reliant. That clears that. So that's something which is absolutely required. Businesses shifting from China to India. This businesses will shift from China to other areas. How much of that will shift to India will depend a lot more on how we offer them. Because there was one data which showed that while businesses have shifted, there was a talk about all 100 companies, but of that only 9 came to India. Rest of them went to other areas, maybe Philippines, Malaysia, some other. So the idea is also the businesses will shift from China. How much will come to India will also depend on what we offer them. But especially on tire, I can tell you, sir, China was a world tire manufacturing factory. They have huge amount of factories. They were exporting almost 50-60% what they produce. And there we are seeing, even in urban areas, that all those companies are today looking at Indian companies to be able to fill those tires which China was supplying. So a lot of that opportunity exists to do that business world over and also in India, because I see a little bit of trend. Our own consumers are saying that there is, I will not say they would like to discard Chinese, but there is that little anti-Chinese sentiment. We should build on that. That's the point from my side.
Thank you, Singh.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you very much. Let me move to Rahul. Rahul is sitting in Manila, and I guess he had a probably similar or a different perspective, sitting from South Asian country of Philippines. So Rahul, if you can come in and if you can share that what has been your learning. You are from insurance industry, BFSI, which has been also significantly impacted by lockdown. So what's your take in terms of your learning and what kind of trend you are seeing? A very quick, short, brief, pointed answer will be helpful, and then I will come to remaining 2 panelists. Rahul, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for this. And again, quickly, thank you for the privilege of being part of this particular panel. For the, going back to your question, and for the insurance industry, I will just talk about 2 very key learnings. One is more around the business per se, the business of insurance. And the other one is, of course, on that, I have learned as a learning on the people side. So on the insurance side, side, the one positive outcome of this entire crisis has been that people's in their lives has gone through a tremendous, change or an impact. As an insurance company, we also sell a lot of health products, and the situation of COVID has shown to people that how some of the countries, the third world countries, are so undercapacitized, are so underdeveloped, are so lack of capability in terms of dealing with any medical emergencies, whether it's financially dealing with these challenges or capacity wise dealing with these challenges. Just to share some data, for the first time we realized that in the Philippines we have one hospital bed for 1,000 for 1,000 people population, whereas some of the other developed countries that we deal with, like France, has about 7.7 hospital beds per 1,000 population. And if you talk about India, we're talking about 0.55 hospital beds per 1,000 population. So the capacity was the challenge, and of course, then the other side is the financial preparedness of the people to be able to deal with those challenges. So the positive outcome it came is that rather than people always just being very conscious about entertainment, spending their money on buying the next mobile phone, they suddenly started inquiring a lot about health products. They started inquiring a lot about how to get financially prepared to deal with any of these emergencies going forward, and so on and so forth. So we ended up seeing incremental interest in our products on our website, and that was one positive side of this particular COVID crisis. The other one which was very starking is a little bit about, not typically of the industry but as an overall, was how people came together in this crisis. The word which I would want to say is solidarity, on how people at different levels came together, put together resources to be able to deal with this crisis. Whether I was reading a lot about the medical world and how the medical professionals quickly came together across the world to share data, which was really amazing to see. But even at an organizational level, I have never seen the employees of AXA work with each other in such a collaborative fashion, in such a brilliant fashion, and pitch in, even if it is not their job, to go beyond the call of duty to be able to support each other in being able to manage this particular crisis. So I think the two good things that came out of this crisis was how people behave in crisis and how people actually tend to come together, and we could see the best coming out of some people to deal with this crisis. And the other one was the medical awareness that I was talking about.
Thanks, Rahul.
Those are the quickly two learnings.
Yeah, thank you. My takeaways are that what you suggest is that people have started recalibrating their life. Prioritization has changed. That's number one. Number two, you also experience and observe a lot of solidarity amongst various stakeholders to get out of this catastrophe which we all are experiencing. I would Rahul, encourage you to think and come back sometime later that you have experience of working in Philippines, another country. You also have connection with India. What kind of contrast you are experiencing in terms of managing this catastrophe, managing this lockdown in two different countries? But I will encourage you to come back a little later and talk about it. And also the management of human capital. I would now move to Rakesh, who has been teaching in different business schools, including IIFT and IRMA. And Rakesh, if you can come in. Rakesh, again, the question is same, that what has been your learning and what one trend you are observing. And now that you are someone associated with academic institutions, one thing is loud and clear that e-learning has become the reality now. And the e-learning has not only moved from higher education plane, it has come to schools also. And how this transformation you are experiencing, and how we all have to equip ourselves to take advantage of this transformation, and what are the dangers, if at all. E-learning, yes, great, but that means that there will be lesser and lesser human touch. So how do you see this whole opportunity and challenge? Rakesh.
Yeah, at the outset, sir, thank you so very much for this invitation to be a part of this panel. Uh, my sense on the learning part from this entire crisis, which we have been witnessing from the last 40 odd days, is that, as Rajesh has also said, that in this VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, we should be ready for anything happening, any untoward things to happen. Expect the unexpected, right? Now, we all, I mean, majority of us must have seen the video of TED talk given by Bill Gates in 2015, talking about epidemic of this size, coming our way. But then majority of us, we didn't pay hit to that, right? So this has taught us a lot, that expect the unexpected. As we say, we should expect the rainy days anytime. So we should be prepared for taking on such kind of problems coming our way, right? Now, when we talk about academics in particular, then there is something which I have felt and seen, is that there is no status quo. Status quo does not exist. But when I say status quo does not exist, that means that I have seen various educational institute not adapting to the changes, not keeping the pace with the changes. Now, incidentally, my area of research is also of adoption of technology. Now, I have seen suddenly, now with this thing around, I have seen adoption of technology going up, which is something which we have been deliberating on since long. Now, the case in point I have to talk about here is of MOOC, right? Now, MOOC, as we know, it's massive open online courses. Now, when we talk about MOOC, it came into India in 2014, 2015 by means of NPTEL. Though in the world it came around 2011. Now, in India, it was there in 2015, and then by the medium of Government of India, Indian government launched SWAM portal, right, in 2017. And I mean, as I say, it was a wishful thinking of the Government of India and UGC that, all the universities around to adopt this MOOC platform, which is called as SWAM. And that was in 2017, and they made all kind of provision to have SWAM being a part of the educational institutional system. But then that didn't happen. That didn't happen, right? Now, if we look into the enrollments which we have in MOOC, it's barely 1 crore or 10 millions in India against a population of 135 crores. Now, even if I talk about higher education, and even if I talk about primary education or a senior education, there is an immense, huge scope we have to adopt technology. And technology is all pervasive. It is across, it's there in every industry. And so is the case of education. Now, on the other side, when we talk about our smartphone penetration, which is to the heights of around 550 million, which is 55 crores, internet penetration of 575 million, which is huge. And against that, if we see in that backdrop, if you want to see about educational technology adoption, then it is meager 1 crore or 10 millions, which is nothing, which is nowhere. Now, the best part which has happened here now is that now people, the educational institute, have realized the importance of it, and now we are seeing that the technology adoption is growing. And we as educators, we also have to adopt this technology pretty fast, because the positive side here is that the students, be it millennials or be it the consumer Z, we call them consumer Z or generation Z, they all are tech savvy. So it's we, the educators, we have to make ourselves we have to make ourselves tech savvy and introduce this platforms for better learning and for better teaching and better learning of the students. So this is something which came up so very well. So these are my 2 cents on the learning part, sir.
Thank you, Rakesh. And I leave a question with you, is that although we are the educators, we are the teachers, but the question is that are teachers learning? Are teachers changing? Are teachers reviewing their role? Have they remained typical old-fashioned teacher, or they have moved on technology platform? That's number 1. Number 2, have they moved from teaching to coaching and mentoring?
True.
So these are some of the things which is very important. And if we have an opportunity, we'll come back to this question.
Sure.
Having said that, this COVID and this catastrophe has also opened to us opportunity to learn a lot of things free of cost.
True.
For the sake of everybody's information, and I don't think that I need to really inform, practically everyone knows that today, even Harvard Business School is offering 67 free courses. The question is that how many of us have found it worthwhile to enroll ourselves in these free courses based on our industry or our specialization? Are we learning? Are we relearning? Are we unlearning? So that's a question I'm leaving. I'm not looking for an answer, but these questions are very generic questions. That although the world has changed, technology has it has come to our home free of cost, but are we changing? I'll come back now I'll move to Naveen. Naveen is into media, and Naveen, if you can share your sense in terms of you are from that space of media, which is extremely important space. What changes you have seen and what trend you are observing?
Yeah,
So,
thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot. And it's my pleasure to part of this webinar. And I can see my senior and CMDians and Mr. DK Modi as a part of this webinar. One key change I can see that is the digital mindset. Technology was already there, but people was very keen to adapt that technology. But in the during the COVID-19, people are so keen to adapt this digital technology, especially the e-commerce, especially the artificial intelligence, and there are changes. Uh, Behavior of the consumer, they can see a lot of changes in the search of the Google. We have inquiry about the e-commerce. They want to set up their e-commerce portal or e-commerce website. Although this kind of requirement was already there, but they were not very keen to adapt these latest changes in the digital. So I can see these changes in the consumer behavior and digital mindset in the last 2 months.
thanks, Naveen. Thank you for your comment and your value add, your suggestions. I'll come back now once again to Rajesh Dahiya. And Rajesh, if you can come in and share your thoughts that every business, every organization has a different set of stakeholders. Now, in a typical industrial organizations, you have employees, you have suppliers, you have customers, so on and so forth, and you have a general society as one of your important stakeholders. My question is to you and also to remaining three panelists is that hold your hand on your heart and let me know, and not only talk about your own organization, has industry leadership, organizational leadership been considerate, been kind, been mindful to different stakeholders during last 40 days? The kind of migration we have seen of blue-collar workers from cities to villages, it suggests that organizations have failed. They have failed to take charge of their stakeholders. The engagement, bonding with our stakeholder has been pretty low. Well, that's a history. What do we learn from here, and how we can ensure that this connect, this bonding, this engagement with the stakeholder helps us and it bonds us. And that's what Rahul was talking about, that need for solidarity. So Rajesh, I would be very keen to hear from you, not only your experiences, but what you are observing around you, how we are managing our stakeholders, and do we need to change gears do we need to change our style? Rajesh.
Thank you, sir. Thanks again. I think it's again a very thoughtful question. I'll say that. So my response to that would be, one is that the moment you said that put your hand on your heart and talk, I clearly can, that sent a little bit of a shiver in my body, to be honest with you. The very fact that yes, those images of people on the Ghaziabad borders, those images of migrants, in those temporary sheds, those videos of some students in Kota crying, wanting to come back, all those images are live. And there's so much on the social media that you said that. So my first comment there would be, sir, that you said, have we done enough? I'd like to say maybe not enough. So because I think the requirements are huge. Also, I think I'd like to give some benefit overall to all of us also, because nobody was prepared. Nobody has seen this kind of thing. Also, the very fact that you said the first question also, where I tried to explain that all of us were growing at 8%, 10%. There was only one dimension of growth. And suddenly with this kind of thing, I do not think everybody had the resources, time and management to be able to manage all of that. So my limited first little response to that is that, have we done enough? Maybe more could have been done. My second response to that, sir, specifically slightly more to our industry, I can tell you that within our industry, I'm not going to talk about only my own company, Appolo Tyres. I can talk about industry. I think we've done pretty well. We've done pretty well. And I will talk about the three stakeholders that we have. One stakeholder is clearly the customer. People like all of us in this webinar, we have cars and scooters and all the other stuff. We buy tires. That's one consumer. And a large part of our consumer for the Indian industry is the truck owner, because that's almost 70% of the industry revenue. So that's one part. The second is society at large, which is everybody around us. That's the second one. And third, I would like to talk about the dealers, because we as a tire industry has got almost 18,000 dealers. I can see that all the companies, all the major Indian companies and even MNCs, we have 10 of them in the country. They all responded well to all of them. We've seen companies, tying up with the police authorities, distributing food packets, distributing medicines across our plants of the industry. I think the industry has got close to 40 plants. I know for sure that across 40 of the direct plants, that across these plants, neighboring villages and around them, lots of activities have been done on food, maintenance, supply. I do not even hear that they've been salary cut so far. At least that is nobody possibly has done in the industry at the workers level or that. But so I think we've done it. But the question of have we done enough is also certainly, which is, I think at this time, the enough can be anything. More could have been done. Yes, those images also have been live. We've seen that, people are sleeping on the platforms and all of that stuff. One little example there, I would like to also come back and talk slightly more is about the dealers, which are also a stakeholder. I can tell you, sir, that being in the sales and marketing, and I know that my colleague Rahul also is there. I think we have, every company wants to grow. We have these little targets which we give them, those incentives we leave to them, and all those kind of things, because everybody wants to grow. I've seen a trend that during this time, almost every company in this has come back to a no conditional business, which means that they're not telling that we understand your finances are tight, because the collection is not, finances are tight, you lose incentives, you don't meet your targets. That's on a financial side, there's been basically an unconditional business. So no targets, whatever business you are able to do, you do. That's something. On the other side, the collections, we've given them the relaxation to delay their payments and all those kind of stuff. A lot of work has been done at that level. One last point which I was missing out, I want to tell over is that even during this time, the stakeholder, the government in the beginning allowed the essential services movement to happen. And all the shops were closed, everything was closed. At this point in time, when all these customers who are ferrying the medicines, who are ferrying vegetables, who are ambulances, police officer, all of that, when they needed tire, they came back to us. We took special permission from the government to open up our stores and deliver to them. So we've done whatever we could do, but yes, the short answer is that what more could have been done, I think overall more could have been done. And also, I think society at large, more should be done by all the corporates.
Rajesh, for being transparent and upfront. What sense I'm getting from you is that yes, we have done a bit, but a lot can be done. And the learning is that leadership has to become a lot more mindful and aware that the kind of catastrophe which we have experienced, this kind of catastrophe will keep coming in future also. That's very unfortunate. There can be recurrences. There can be, as a matter of fact, we are moving into the next phase where the climate, global warming will happen. And something like COVID will, God forbid, should not happen. There is a very strong possibility. So are we ready? I mean, has this catastrophe taught leadership to be ready in terms of our delivery to our stakeholders? Rahul, you did talk about solidarity in Philippines.
Yes, sir.
I would encourage you to respond to this question, that what more can be done in terms of our delivery to our stakeholders? And then I will come to Rakesh, who is associated with education platform, that are we serving our students in these changing times? Can we do something much more than what we are doing? So Rakesh, keep ready with your answers, and Rahul, yes, please.
Sure, sir. I think for me, I would tend to agree with Rajesh that it's very difficult to say how much is enough. But one thing which really personally took me to by a big surprise is how a lot of governments across the world, and including the Philippines, at this point of time, the country leadership was taking decisions which was more keeping the safety of the people in mind rather than the economic loss that it will bring to the nation. And I think India is no exception to that. If you look at how Philippines, and I earlier talked about the medical infrastructure's unpreparedness for this particular situation, it came to me quite as a surprise that on 15th March, when the data on deaths or the number of cases in the Philippines was nowhere close to being catastrophic or nowhere close to what we've seen in some of the other countries, the Philippines government did take a decision of a complete lockdown situation for 2 months. To begin with, it was so we'll be in this complete lockdown situation of 2 months, which for me is already a very good indicator of how the country leadership is of the people in economic and the financial impact that this decision would have on the people. I think it's a little bit of a mindset appreciation that people would have to do, that at this point, as the corporate sector is concerned, I have seen a very different approach by various corporates, and it has primarily been defined by how deep-pocketed the corporate is and how big an impact they see on a permanent basis of this particular crisis on them for the foreseeable future. And I think the companies which were quite deep-pocketed and they did not see, or they saw this as a more of a temporary impact on their business, and they know that once things goes back to normal, things will come back. They have been more, concerned. They've been more welcoming and more supportive of the stakeholders. Whereas some of the companies which knew, especially the service industry, the airlines, the hotels, we've seen a lot of those corporates taking a decision of no work, no pay, having to lay off employees, because at the end of the day, they had to keep the business also going in a longer period of time. And they knew that the crisis that they are facing is going to be long term rather than a short term crisis which they'll be able to come out with pretty fast. So supporting the stakeholders, I would say. But overall, sir, you were talking about also the difference between Philippines and India. I see more of EQ in the Philippines as compared to the IQ that I see in India, and that in situations like this has made quite an impact on the decisions which a lot of corporate leaders and business leaders and the government leaders have made versus what I see in India. It's basically I would say EQ versus IQ kind of a situation
So
that I have
Rahul,
observed.
what you're saying is that you are observing and experiencing a better emotional management in a country like Philippines than in India. We are running the
Yes, sir.
show with our mind, not from our heart. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
That's not very encouraging, unfortunately, because
It has its own advantages,
yes.
but
Okay,
not in a COVID situation.
sure. Rakesh, coming to you, I mean the whole this digital e-learning. What do you foresee? I mean, are we doing good enough job in terms of managing learning, not only in school, colleges, university, but also in industry? So many things becoming available to executives. And I'm aware that CMD Mavericks, the alumni of CMD, are in different part of the country. What do you see? Are we continuously unlearning, relearning, learning? How do you see that? And what more can be done, if at all?
Lot can be done, sir. I mean, one thing is for sure that this situation, this crisis has taught us a lot, right? Now, be it on the technology front or be it on the behavioral aspect of it, right? Now, it has also taught us that, you know, we need to be uh, in the pink of health to continue away this technology benefit, right? So now talking about education sector, now one thing which I have observed and noticed with educational institutes I have been associated with, that nobody had this in mind. Nobody was prepared for this enormity of problem. Though they were technologically, they were equipped, they were having technological infrastructure, but then it was just kind of a showpiece for them. It was not being used, right? Now with this around, I could see that you know, now there is everybody running helter skelter and looking out for ways and means to have the technological setup there in their institutes up and ready. Now one thing which we missed very heavily on was on the training part of the faculty members. Now many of the faculty members, they were not at all well versed with technology, and behaviorally also they were not quite keen to adopt that, right? So that is where we have seen majority of the challenge coming in when we started taking them through all those technology adoption courses. But then yes, the good part is that if I have to rattle out numbers, then we have seen around 70 to 80% of the faculty members and now are well versed with how to, you know, carry on with these platforms and how to create content. But then again, there is a long way to go. Now, we spoke about MOOC. Now, MOOC is something which is the way forward, which any university worth their name, worth their salt have been talking about. As you rightly said, you spoke about Harvard, and being one of the topmost university in the world. But then there also we don't have that kind of a technology platform which can, you know, have 100 200 students being addressed together. MOOC one way can take that slot, right? So yes, what is critical now for all of us, all the educators here, is that keeping aside our behavioral aspects and issues, we have to be ready for this change and we need to quickly adopt and embrace technology. And we should be also there amongst foreigners to create MOOCs on our own. Now, there was recently, you know, just a fortnight back, the University of Delhi, they are conducting a FDP on how to create MOOCs. Now, the kind of response they have got, around more than 10,000 people they enrolled in that course. So I can see, and we can see the chat happening on Telegram. So we could see that people are getting towards it. They are getting inclined towards it to learn more about it. So this is something which is good happening, sir.
Thank you, Rakesh. That's wonderful. And let me build on to what you said, is that this change and transformation which is happening in education space is not something which industry professionals should overlook. Why I say it? Because every industry leader, every general manager, every vice president in any company is also a coach, a teacher, a mentor. Meaning thereby that it doesn't matter, and that's something for Rajesh and Rahul, I'm sure both of them are doing a great job, that you are not only a vice president or chief executive, and I'm saying at the cost of dramatization, that each one of us is a teacher also, each one of us is a coach also, each one of us is a mentor also in our own domain. So this, what Rakesh has been sharing is equally relevant and valid for us. That how do we equip our constituency, our employees, our subordinates, our peers to get ready for tomorrow and face the challenges. Gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, it is 12 o'clock. We are running against time. I wanted to discuss quite a few things, but I guess I will have to stop. But before I uh, uh, come to question answer session, I can't stop myself from asking the last question from each one of you. And I will start with Naveen. Keeping in mind whatever we have discussed, keeping in mind uncertainties and volatility and ambiguity and complexity of times, what we need to do to be future ready, that's number one. Number two, if you can also answer that what are the three key competencies which you believe is going to help each one of us to manage future? How to get future ready? And what are the three competencies which we will require, is irrespective of the fact whether we are in industry or educational space, wherever we are, what we need to inculcate, imbibe, encourage, build in terms of competency. So Naveen, if you can start.
Yes, yeah. Yes, regarding different kind of skill set, companies are encouraging to learn new skill set, let us say online education or online learning from different platform. So there is a different kind of the culture in the companies, in the organization. They are encouraging their employees, their team, their new joiner to learn the different kind of the skill set, and that culture would last for the long time. And second thing, we can I can see the location independent services, like location independent process, where the people will not be bound to a specific one location. They can work from different location. Of course, this kind of the process is confined to some industry. It could be the IT or different kind of where the people can work from the laptop. Yes, and the recent example we can see the TCS. TCS has launched the enterprise agile program. uh, in fact, this program was launched 3 years back, and they were quick to adapt the changes as a work from home once the lockdown was declared in India, and they changed everything within 2 days. That was
Okay.
an agile program. So
Okay.
company would be more agile, more flexible, and more technology savvy.
Thank you. Thank you, Naveen. Rahul, if you can come in. Rahul, if you can come in, what's your take
Yes,
on
sir.
getting future ready and three competencies?
So, sir, I'll just talk about one in the interest of time so that the others can add. I'll not repeat what was already said, but I think the big change which has to be brought about in leadership is the humility and being able to lead with vulnerability. And what do I mean by these two things is that, typically in the old style of leadership, all the leaders were expected to know all the answers. All the leaders are always are used to a leadership style where employees, teams look up to them when it is at a time of crisis. I think because things going forward are changing so fast, it is impossible for any one leader or any leadership team to have all the answers. So they should first start acknowledging the fact and with humility that they do not know the answers. It is not a problem to stand in front of the employees or stand in front of their stakeholders and tell the people that these unprecedented times and the pace at which things are unfolding in front of us, we do not have all the answers. We are vulnerable, we don't have all the answers, and we'll figure it out together as we proceed going forward, and also the fact that we will be making a lot of mistakes going forward and we will be learning from those mistakes. So setting that particular entire culture in an organization where leadership style is now not about being able to give all the answers to your employees, but to accept with humility that these are situations of vulnerability. As a leader, as a leadership, we are vulnerable. We are exposed to a lot of learnings, and hence encourage collective mindset and collective thinking and strategizing is going to be the leadership style which will be most important in the times to come going forward, rather than the old traditional way of leadership.
I'm delighted, Rahul, that you shared humility and vulnerability, those two strong pillars of emotional intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vinamrata, what we call Vinamrata, and the second one, ki mujhe nahi aata hai.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't
वो
have
बोलना
answers.
बहुत important है.
हम लोगों ने MBA किया है और MBA का मतलब है मुझे बहुत आता है. MBA, मुझे बहुत आता है. That's the whole problem. So
सर
what you are
लीडर्स
saying?
को बहुत मुश्किल हो जाती है कई बार ये बोलना कि ये मुझे नहीं आता है in front of a team, sitting in front of the people that are looking up to them, कि ये मुझे नहीं आता है. I have not learned this in my past.
Absolutely.
So only your past experiences can only take you as much, but I think there is new experiences that we need to be developing going forward.
So I appreciate and acknowledge your observations. Wonderful. Rajesh, if you can come and share your prescription for getting future ready and 3 competencies for tomorrow.
Sir,
Rajesh,
I think
if you're around.
Yeah, I'm there. So, am I audible, sir? Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. So first is that I would, I'd like to compliment Rahul for making, some very brilliant observation of leadership. It's a great thing, and it's a great trait to stand in front of your team and say, I do not know. It's beautiful. I'd like to just start from there and take that discussion a little forward, sir. That within, I think also this is one of the traits where I believe that one of the traits that's required for tomorrow is also about leadership. Now, the leadership within one, I like to define there's a wartime leadership and there is a peacetime leadership. Most of us have been taught the peacetime leadership. And that is where you understand, lead from the side, servant leaderships, allow more delegation and all those things. So traditional. But if you look at today, the wartime leadership, which situations today is slightly different, while the basic strings do not change. But what happens in a crisis like this, your team is scared. They look up to you. You have to be more visible. You may not have all the answers, but you have the courage to stand in front of them and allow them to. The other thing, what makes the difference between a wartime leadership and a peacetime leadership is about decision making. Maybe in the peacetime, you could allow them to take a little longer to take decision. The crisis needs decision to be taken faster. And you need to take decision where people are wanting to put in their neck. And so those things. So I'd like to only take that discussion forward and say leadership is one, but the dimension of a wartime leadership and peacetime leadership is also something which is coming up. In terms of getting future ready, sir, I can tell you the future belongs to the companies which are fit and lean. You need to get fit and lean. You have to cut all the fat. You have to build muscles. That's something which has to be done. And also the other thing, at least from my industry, I can talk about what we learned is we learned something which says that cash is the king and availability is the queen. That's the dimension. So exactly what it means today is that we need to have cash at any point in time. We need to protect our reserves. Also, the thing within the cash and also the holy cows have to be questioned like a fixed cost. There is no fixed cost. There is only every cost is today a debatable cost. We need to move from, as a company, we are moving from fixed cost to a participative cost. I need to ensure I need to get participation from all my guys, even the landlord. When I'm holding their rents, I will get into participative cost. So those are a couple of things that we are wanting to do, sir. So as a summary from my side, I think I completely echo what Rahul has said. The leadership has to get to a new dimension. That's one skill. Tech friendliness. There is no world tomorrow without technology. And the technology is about you must be able to live and breathe technology, the younger generation that they do. The other thing, creativity as a third skill, I would say, will never go out of fashion. And especially in the era now where people will have to work from home and all those kind of things, and companies will downsize technically. In that situation, you need people who can be more creative, not the people who can just do run of the business. So those are the few takes from my side.
Wonderful, Rajesh. Let me close by saying that wonderful analogy of wartime leadership and peacetime leadership. Yes, it requires different kind of leadership attributes in both situations, but simultaneously we should be mindful of the fact that when there is a warlike situation, you don't become authoritarian, you don't become dictatorial. You remain somewhere grounded in some of the values which Rahul was talking about. Because why I say that, because what we are seeing around us in different countries, the prime ministers and presidents of certain countries have become dictatorial rather than democrat. They are using this opportunity to grab more power rather than being participating. And there are ample examples, and I don't need to name names. My learning is that yes, I will change my leadership style because it's a warlike situation, but I will not misuse this opportunity to grab all the power and be in the limelight all the time. I will find opportunity to participate with my stakeholders and then co-create a future course of action. Before we close, Rakesh, some quick point.
Yeah.
It's almost 10 minutes past 12. You have only 1 minute to close.
So three points, three competencies which I will talk about in a very quick fashion is that in these challenging times, we need to practice self-care. Because if I am not going to exist, what do I do of the technology? So practicing of self-care is something which is very, very, very important. And the second competency which we all need to have, I mean, is learn, learn, and learn. We need to be lifelong learners, and we need to match pace with the changing time, the evolving time. So learn, learn, and learn. And third thing, which is very, 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 very important, and it has a human aspect to it, is abundance of communication. We need to be abundantly communicating with all our stakeholders. Now, from an education perspective, if I talk about stakeholders, then the major stakeholders we have as educators are the students. Now, in this time of crisis, we need to be extremely empathetic with them, knowing the very fact that the kind of anxieties and the stress level they are going through, because I personally have seen many of the job offers being rolled back, many of the internships being cancelled, and these poor chaps require our listening, proper listening, and giving them a ray of hope. So in these trying times, it is very, very important for us to have a very strong channel of communication with all of our stakeholders. And they look up to us for a clear direction and a reason for hope.
Learn, learn, learn. That's what Rakesh is saying. And let me close this part of webinar with those three powerful words: learn, learn, learn.
Yeah.
We have no choice but to continue learning. We have no choice to continue on learning, relearning new things. It's not necessary that I have to be in education sector to continue learning. Wherever I am, I have to learn, learn, learn. So ladies and gentlemen, it's 12 minutes past 12. We have overspilled so far time limit is concerned. I invite Captain Rajiv Saxena to throw the floor open. Rajiv Saxena, if you are around, can you share 1, 2, 3 questions maybe, because we have limited time. You can share the question. You can also let us know what audience is asking, what they are observing. Yeah, Rajiv. Carry on.
We have one question from Dr. Dipankar Sharma. Sir, people are moving to their own places due to COVID-19 after lockdown. This will create problem to industries, institutions to bring them into change. Our dependence on online platform will also affect business model. How we should plan for this?
Rakesh, if you have heard it, maybe you would like to respond.
There was a break, but then yes, what I could understand, let me rephrase the question. It is about that people migrating to their places, and how can we have the platform ready, and then how can we disseminate knowledge to them? Is that the question, sir?
Yeah. Yes, something similar.
Yeah. So my answer to this is, and this is what we have been also witnessing across all the educational institutes and the corporate also. And but then the continuity of things must be there. Now talking about students, now what I have seen personally is that uh, students from economically weaker sections of the society, they do not have the devices back home, right? So I would say those percentage to be around 20-30%. But then majority of the students we have, they are equipped with laptops, right? And we have, now I am from a telecom background, so I can very convincingly and with conviction I can say that we have internet penetration across. Yes, uh, bandwidth challenges are there. Now today, over this webinar and in other webinars also, I have realized the importance of why, there is an importance of quick rollout of 5G, because then we'll be getting abundance of bandwidth. But then yes, we have adequate 3G and 4Gs available in the remotest of the of the villages also, right? So we in India, if we talk about 90% is penetrated through telecom, through internet. So talking about platform and all that, yes, there would be challenges, but then this is the end thing, and then we don't have any other option than to adopt online. Challenges would surely be there, but then we have to overcome that.
Thank you, Rakesh. Captain Rajiv, next question.
So, yes, question from Shalini is that we are embracing technology during lockdown, but can it replace classroom? Keeping the fact into consideration that not everyone has access to it remotely.
Okay, it's a similar question. I will pass on. Maybe Rakesh, a very short answer, 30-second answer.
So I will never. I'm also of the view that technology will never replace human beings. So that human touch will always something which will add value to the conversation. So yes, once this lockdown is over, maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months down the line, we will be having blended learning as a way of learning, right? Now blended could be a 50% classroom, 50% online, 60% classroom, 40% online. But then that is going to be the way.
Okay, Rajiv. Next.
Last question I have from Dr. Dhawan is what
Rajiv, sorry, I am interrupting you. Sir,
Yeah.
I am just putting forward summary of many questions, and these questions are addressed to both the Bhishma Pitama of this webinar, Professor Khandal Sahab and Dr. Singh, that many among our CMDNs have also, not only CMDNs, many youngsters, they have undergone a lot of anxiety during the period of lockdown. And this anxiety is going to continue because many people, they have lost their businesses. There are many people who had small businesses, they've lost their businesses. Many youngsters who have lost their jobs, many youngsters who have been downsized in their remuneration. So what is the key advice you two as senior and mature person from academics, what advice would you like to give to all youngsters that how do we handle our future, how do we make rules for ourselves?
Okay, Dr. Khandal. Sir.
You see, Sanjay ji, this is the question which actually is troubling almost everybody across the world. And people are really taking this out of proportions in my point of view. In my opinion, as I said in the beginning of my opening remarks, there are things in future which are very important that we should have learned from this pandemic is, number one, self-reliance. Compare the country, which is a developed country, which has hospitals per thousand, so many, but so many people have died. See the country which has less than one hospital per thousand persons, but so many less deaths. So first and foremost thing is, what is important in life must be put in place first rather than the economy. Your package, your all that you have been doing which are not meaningful in life has no significance. Each person has to be, first of all, self-reliant, healthy. And it is not that this is my job and I have lost the job. You should be capable of being able to do many, many more things. Not that the job that you have got is everything in life. Life is so big. It's neither one job nor a designation. Life is not one company or or a business. Life is very, very big. It's huge. And every youth today, we should prepare the youth to be ready for challenges. They in life, they don't come by notice. This pandemic has not happened by notice. We should be always ready. And the country like India, if it has to be leading in the world, first of all, it has to be self-reliant. Today, our drug industry, we are exporting drugs out of India only because our people are healthy. Imagine if in India we had so many people in the hospitals, we won't be able to export the drugs. So I think each and every youth first has to be self-reliant, independent of job, independent of businesses, independent of economy. If you are healthy, you are richest. If you are not healthy, if you are planning for your retirement in a manner that you will fall sick and you will have insurance policies for that, then you are bound to fall sick. But if you don't fall sick, you don't need money to spend in the hospitals. So that is first and the second thing is the job that you have. That is not everything that you should be able to do. You should be able to do so many things, service to the society. There are so many areas in which we can really do and grow. We don't have to look every month's salary as the only way of life, in my opinion.
Sanjay, I would pass on the question to my two young colleagues, Rahul and Rajesh. Very quick response, Rahul and Rajesh, to this question which Dr. Khandal just addressed.
Sir, I'll just quickly say that, when you're young, you have a very defined and a very structured and a very boxed method of evaluating what is a good job and what is it that I can do, where is it that my skill sets are there. I would encourage the youngsters to, at this point of time, explore what are the other career opportunities which would be coming their way. There are, as I shared in my talk, there are industries which are struggling at this time, which would be the cause of some attrition, some loss of jobs, some shortage of. But at the same time, this is also an opportunity to explore industries where jobs are going to be more. There are going to be industries which are actually going to flourish more because of this particular COVID. So this is an opportunity to think out of the box, to be creative with yourself, to see it's not necessarily, trust me, education, unless you are a specialist in a particular role, like if you have been educated to be a doctor, then it's difficult to now become anything but a doctor. But if you're not a specialist in terms of the education that you have been able to attain, there is always an opportunity to do different things. And if you're a specialist, then even the application of the specialization that you've been gives you various different kinds of opportunities in life. So my suggestion would be, think out of the box, and probably this is the time to take certain amount of risks with your careers, with your jobs. Try different industries, try different companies. You never know where you will find your sweet spot.
Thank you, Rahul. Rapid fire answer from Rajesh. Very quick, 30 seconds.
So is only rapid fire is that only, sir. My first is the very fact that I think the question is largely for the youngsters. And at this stage, for them to think about a larger part of the society or contributors, etc., may not really cut ice so well. So I think very specific. The one, gentlemen, this is a curve. If it has gone down, it will come up. So if you have lost job now, if you are not getting jobs, do not stay. It's a time that you'll have to bear. It will come back. Industries will grow by 8%, 10%. Any ball you throw down with, the more sports you throw, the more is going to bounce back. So it'll come back. Jobs will be there. Don't worry about that. The second thing I want to do is use this time to build your skills. Use this time to build those skills which you did not have or possibly other skills. So my suggestion would be only these two. Thank you.
Wonderful. Recalibrate yourself. Reboot yourself. Recalibrate, reboot yourself. That's what Rajesh is saying. Thank you, Rajesh. I think we are at the fag end, and this is the time I should close from my side. Thank you very much, Rajesh, Rahul, Rakesh, Naveen, for wonderful value addition from your side. Absolutely brilliant, absolutely mesmerizing. I'm impressed, and I'm sure our audience have